I'm ready.
Okay, so I'm looking at the question about 5 qualities that of Jim and JC that we hope to pass down to our children, nieces, nephews, and grandkids. JC and Jim were both hard workers, and they, in fact, JC would even pray about it. He would say his typical prayer would be, thank you, Lord, for bless this food to the nourishment of our body, and thank you for work and your help in doing it. And I just thought, because he always wanted to make sure that all of us were working, he was very proud of that, but they did pass that down. None of us have been ones to
Not work.
As far as the favorite things, one of the favorite things about JC, hey Max, his positive attitude, and he, I can't think who wrote the Power of Positive Thinking, but JC took it to heart. In fact, he read many self-help books, but he would, when I was growing up, it would annoy me because I would come to him with some issue that I had with somebody, and he would find the positive thing in it, and I'm like, no, I'm the one that's
I'm mad
here. You need to take my side. No, and he always found, I never heard him say negative things about people unless he was really mad about something. And he didn't get mad very often. But in fact, there was a song that came out when, I guess maybe I was a kid. Accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Don't settle for Mr. In-Between. So, I mean, it was just, that's what we're going to do. We're going to accentuate the positive. And that's one of the best things that he could have given to me. Mother never would stand for anybody saying anything negative about him. She taught me that if someone comes in to the room and they're talking bad about your husband, then you need to leave the room. You just don't. You don't put up with that. And I respect that. And they were just, they were just so in love with each other, and JC would never go anywhere that he couldn't. Even if they had to share a twin bed, they were sleeping together. Even if they had to push 2 cots together, they were sleeping together. He could make her laugh, anytime. And she had that special laugh. She taught me a lot about music. Which he could not do because he could not carry a tune in a bucket. He was tone deaf, but she loved music, and she and she loved learning. She always, when I was in high school and college, if I was reading something, she wanted to be reading it. We read all of the Tony Hillerman stuff. When I took Literature of the Southwest, she read everything that I read. She just loved learning that stuff, and she was always had a love of learning. She would, and teaching people. She'd love to teach. She would. I remember there was a time when she was teaching kids to. Murphy, I'm going to forget myself. The Charleston. She was teaching kids the Charleston because nobody else in town could remember how to do it. So anyway, it was just, she just loved to, she never lacked curiosity and learning about things and traveling they didn't travel as much as they probably would like to have, but they sure had a big time when they did. As far as the things that, I mean, fun stories growing up. I mean, there's so many, and but a lot of the times, you know, they were always there, and I'm talking about track meets, band concerts. They didn't
Both of
miss
them?
Yes,
Yeah.
they didn't miss them. You know, sometimes you just got to be there.
Right.
You know, I always knew that
Yeah.
they would be, no matter what I was doing, running track. In fact, you talk about Mother. One time, I must have been a sophomore or so, and I was running track, and she came up to the track and decided she was going to try to jump a hurdle. She would have been maybe 50. And of course, she knocked the hurdle completely over and sprawled all over the track, but she tried. Okay, stop. Okay, so what else?
Any parting thoughts? What do you hope that they? What traits do you hope you have passed on to your kids
Okay, all right.
and grandkids?
Again, the value of doing a job and doing it well, doing it right the first time. Organization. Mother was so organized. We called her the kitchen buster, because anytime anybody moved, Mother would come in and organize their kitchen, and it was just wonderful. And I respect that, and I respect her. She loved to entertain. She loved to have people over, but she always had a vision of how things should be, you know, and loved every one of her grandkids so much. My gosh. I mean, I wish she could have seen how wonderful everybody's become. It's just, theirs was a great story.
Ready when you are.
Well, the question is some favorite things about Jim and JC. And I think that one of the first things that I would think that I have as a favorite thing is just watching their intimacy with each other, their love for each other. They deeply loved each other, and they did from the very beginning to the very end. And that was something that was very, very special, to be able to watch that and listen to them. They were very, very playful with each other, and that helped keep things loose and, you know, and not so filled with drama. When they operated as a parental unit, that's hard to put a handle on, because I can't really. They came together, and if there was some kind of discipline, it was usually meted out by JC, but supported by Jim. So I really can't. As a unit, when I sit there and think of them as a unit, I think of them more as a couple working together in a family-owned business, and that's how she and he they were with each other every day, all day. A lot of work, a lot of businesses that they were running, and a lot of pressure on them, and they handled that very, very well. Some qualities that I'd like to see them that I'd like to pass down to kids and nieces, nephews, and other family members would be the encouragement of your children. Every game I went and played in. Every race I ran in, there was one of them there. And you've asked for a favorite story. One of my favorite stories was, I guess I was a sophomore, junior in high school, and I was on the B team, football team, and we went down on a Thursday night to a little town called Shamrock, Texas, which is in the Sandhills, southeast of Panhandle, probably about 90 to 100 miles away, long way away. It was a cold, windy night with dust and sand blowing around, and I had just one of these incredible games. Everything I did right. I did well. I scored touchdowns. I intercepted passes. And I'll never forget coming off the field, coming to the little old gate to go to the field house was JC. And JC was standing there. He'd come down and he'd watch the game. I had no idea he was there. That really meant a lot. And it helped me understand the need to really stay with your kids, show them you love them, show them you support them. It may be just a little old rinky-dink game, but it will have the most influence. That's very, very influential. And the other thing that I would like to point out as kind of a quality is that they. Well, let me back up. I had one other thing about that kind of support. I made the decision to go to law school. I told my dad that, and it shocked me that both he and mother said, well, that's what we hoped you would do. I never had anybody say, why don't you go to law school? They let me make that decision on my own. But it was like, well, why didn't you tell me this? I was really surprised that they did not push me. And I've tried to be that way with my children and support them, not try to push them into a field or an area. So,
Oh, you come out of your shit?
we
Keep going.
back.
Yeah.
Well, can't remember where I was.
Equality. You're going to talk about equality.
One of the other things that was they were grounded. They had a sense of who they were, and they never let you get on your high horse. It was always, mother had that ability. I'll never forget. I was up in Washington. I was in the White House. I was in the Roosevelt room, and I had a minute to myself, and we'd just gotten cell phones. And I'll never forget, I called Mother from the Roosevelt room of the White House to tell her, you're never going to believe where I am. I'm in the Roosevelt room in the White House. And she said, well, la-dee-da. Okay. I'm in the Roosevelt room in the White House. She said, well, good for you. Tell the president hello. And it just has stayed with me, and it's just one of those things that was a really good quality of both of them, because they were grounded and they had a good sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And laughter was always a part of our family. And you always have rough times, and everybody does. And I don't want to sit here and glorify my parents, because they were doing the best that they could, and it was tough. They came up through the Great Depression, through a lot of hardship, and JC had an ability to take businesses and keep them right on the edge of the cliff, which was just his way of. I mean, he was doing the best that he could.
But he drove that way too.
So, one thing that I mean, when we talk about it in all seriousness, is that Jay was awful rough with all of us, and I mean, he grew up that way. He didn't have a mother, and so he was in a. He always mother always said, you know, Bear says it with a slap. And one of the things that I have as my legacy from them is don't hurt the grandkids, because I've seen every one of their grandkids come crying out, you know, Jay pinched me, Jay hit me, Jay did this, Jay, and somebody make them cry and stuff. So that'd be a legacy that I would encourage, is don't hurt the grandkids. But they've really had a wonderful sense of humor and had a way of staying grounded. They loved each other. You see it in the pictures that they have. Their laughter, their sense of life. Their religion was very important to them. His faith was very important to them, and they were they hung on and actually prospered in the little community of Panhandle, and have a lot. You know, we all have a lot to be proud of as a result of being brought up that way. So I hope that helps. Does that work?
Any closing thoughts? Anything you wrote down that you didn't say on your note card right there?
No, I don't think so. I would add just that one of the things that I think was passed on from both of them was you don't ever give up. Never ever give up. And I have done that in my career to the best that I can, and in my personal and spiritual life is you don't quit. You know, and you learn from your mistakes. Your failures are just lessons. They're not failures, they're lessons. And you know, encourage your loved ones and support them, and just love them unconditionally. So, which is a pretty good legacy.
That's great.
Does that work?
Yeah. read them again?
I can't read them. I left my glasses at home.
Humor.
They worked hard. I thought. Humor. Yeah. They cared about other people as well as themselves. Because when I worked at the office, and I was in the back of the office, and I'd have to come up front to get something, they would always be working with other people about how they could pay their bill. You know, because there's drought season or something like that, and you know, the farmers had a hard time. And so they'd always be working with people to pay their bill, help them pay their bill. And that goes with that goes with the qualities they have. And I hope that kids do remember some of these stories. The only stories I can really think about was the one where we went to visit our great uncle and Ruth in California, and Brenda and I, they had I don't know how long we stayed there, but we went to a vineyard. Rand and I, they told us it was ripe olives, or it was an olive vineyard. And Rand and I loved ripe olives. We got them, and they were we didn't know they were supposed to be marinated and all this. We just thought they were ripe olives, you know, just like we buy in the store. That was one. And that, you know.
What did they say when y'all came back with that reaction?
Oh, they probably laughed at us. You know, they did laugh at us, I'm sure. And another one was when I can only remember part of it. We went to Kentucky, Virginia. We went down to Arkansas.
Okay.
That's where mother's uncle and aunt lived. And we visited with them. I don't know, Uncle Boyd and Aunt Pansy, and we visited with them for a while. That's where I probably was getting onto the horse and fell off. You know, I don't know. I thought I was riding the horse, but I mean that sticks because I wanted to exaggerate things. But that's all I remember of that trip. I don't remember anything else. I think it was then that it was on that trip that we came back, and I went and laid down on my bed, and that's when I had my first seizure. And Randa came in and found me.
Oh wow!
And yeah, that's right.
That's something to walk in and see.
Yeah, it is. And so that's all I remember of that. I don't know if that was the right time or anything. What was the others?
Let's see.
Right down the legacy. I just hope that the legacy is honesty, humor. Always look at one thing Daddy had. He was humorous, but he would use his humor in a way to get people to feel better about themselves. And he was humorous to other people, more so to other people than he was to us. Sometimes, of course, you can look back on it and laugh. But,
Right.
He'd kind of snap his fingers with your skin between it.
That's what my dad said too.
And I can't remember, but he was humorous. He was honest. He was honest to his customers. That was always the thing I was amazed at. He was respectable. I can look back. I worked in the law library in Amarillo, and one of the judges happened to be Judge Reynolds. Judge Reynolds and Daddy went to the same high school. I think it was Childress that they graduated
Okay.
from, or I don't know, Childress or Hereford. I think it was Childress. but they went to the same high school. They knew one another real well, and they always chummed up with one another. And it turned out that was a good place to work. Judge Reynolds knew me. One of the judges had lived in Spearman, and he knew Mary Beth and West. He went to the Methodist Church. He knew them, and the secretary to Judge Reynolds happened to go to live in Spearman. She grew up there, and her best friend was one of our cousins, was Lynn, and so it was a good place to work in.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very small world.
Yeah, it really is. And Daddy was responsible. He was respected by everybody, and Mother was too. Oh, Mother really was. Yeah.
And they were active in the church, isn't that right?
They were very active in the church. One of the things I can remember most is Mother and Daddy would take us to Palo Duro Canyon. Now, this was before the back door was closed.
Okay.
This was before it had been declared a state park.
Okay.
All that.
Yeah.
We would go in the back way, and Mother, they prepared breakfast for us, and this would be on a Sunday.
Right.
We'd climb around and see things, and Rand and I were little.
Yeah.
And but Daddy made sure that we got back for church. Mm-hmm. And because Rand and I, in the pictures we have, Rand and I were wearing these corduroy jumpers.
Yeah.
And we were, I can't imagine. Climbing with those nice corduroy jumpers on. Anyway, we got back in time to go to church. Now, this happened every place we went.
Right.
Daddy would make sure we went to church.
Yeah.
Now, and that's when Randa and Mother sang the Amen. Oh, and that church didn't sing the Amen.
Yeah. So they were the only ones. A very small choir.
Right.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And no, I don't know if that was so small a church that anyone was able, because I think we got out the door so quick that they didn't have to speak to us. But it was fun. Daddy took us to all these churches, and every place we traveled to, every state that we went through, Daddy wanted to see the Capitol. I think when we were in California, we went to Sacramento to see the Capitol. I think we all saw the bottom half of the United States.
Yeah.
The state, the capital. And then we saw Texas. That's mine.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a good, my dad is that way with courthouses. So whenever we drive through, we have to see every courthouse.
Yeah, you do.
And he loves them.
They are different in a way, and they're the same.
Yep, exactly.
Mostly the same, but you'll see them a little bit different. And they're, the building, the construction.
Yeah.
They were just about the same.
Yeah.
So.
Question before you answer it, and you can just hop around too. No one has stayed on this script, which
10 of their favorite things. Ooh.
we can think like humor, honesty.
Yeah.
But if you don't hit 10, that's okay.
Okay, good. That's good to know. Things about Jim and JC, how they operated as a parental unit.
It's funny to hear everyone's
Okay.
answers.
Exactly. One story I remember, I wasn't there, but Mother told me later, Parker was about 10, maybe. And he walked into the bedroom and he said, Mother, Daddy, it's time to get up, we gotta go to school, we're gonna be late. And JC said, Parker, it's Saturday, it's all right. And Parker said, well, god damn. And Mother said she and Daddy both just rose up in a sitting position in bed. he had, what did you say? Goddamn. And anyway, and then JC says later he was giving Parker a busting. And he said, "You don't ever say that again." And then and he whacked him a lot, and then he whacked him one last time. So Parker, I'm sure, never said that again. But I just think about Mother and Daddy both raising up in the bed going, "What did you say?" As a parental unit.
Or them individually.
You were the oldest.
I know.
What happened on your first date? Did the boy come and ask, and
No.
how did that work? You were the first, so you were there.
Through the experiment.
Yeah.
They, mother said, I had maybe 6 months old, standing up in bed, in a baby bed. And she and, I want to say JC were outside. It may have been somebody else with Mother, but Mother was there. And all at once, slam, and there I am standing there grinning at him like this, and I pulled the curtain, the roller shade down completely off the wall, and I had messed in my pants, and I had patted it all over the window. And then Mother just shook her head. She was good. I loved her style of giving parties. Not that I don't know that she learned that skill in Kansas, but by the time she got to Panhandle and got around some ladies like Joella Randall and I can't think of others right now, but anyway, Mother could throw a darn good party. I mean, she had the dishes, she had the food. It was all organized, very well done, very well done. So she was a very good hostess. I can remember her cooking in the kitchen, and our stove had a griddle top, and she made the best pancakes you ever tasted off of that griddle top on that stove. I remember us sitting around the round table, and I love them to this day. And we're sitting there, and all six of us, and Kay and Parker are getting bigger, and we love humor, obviously. And I remember one of them saying something absolutely hilarious, and we were all just shaking, going over, and JC getting up and pulling out his handkerchief and wiping his eyes and blowing his nose, and just because one of the Kay or Parker had said something really funny, and I loved those. I have those. Those are some of my best memories, sitting around that table as a family unit. Had some. We always had a prayer, and we were lucky to get to.
Did y'all say the same prayer before every meal?
No.
No.
Well, sometimes. Sometimes if JC was doing it, he might say it different. But strong on church. If I missed, I better have a darn good reason. Because you just didn't. I mean, we were there. One of our family members was there nearly every time the doors were open, and Mother and Daddy served on every committee, which I admire to this day, because I tried to do the same thing when I joined Emmanuel Lutheran, and it's not easy being on a church council. It's not easy because of the personalities and the mission you're on, and they served, and then Mother taught, they had, I don't know what, they must have thought about it in Panhandle, but Mother was in charge of the youth group, and she got records and funny ones, put your little foot, all that sort of thing. And she had kids dancing in the basement at the Methodist church, just having a ball, because she knew what they wanted to do. Yeah. Oh yeah. Shut your
That was
mouth.
but that's a big thing though in Panhandle, that there was dancing going on in a church basement.
And
that Norma Jim was doing it.
Well, and you understand how as you live in a place,
Yep.
sometimes convention, I don't know what other word to put for it, changes, and what is acceptable in the past suddenly becomes not acceptable.
Right.
But that was acceptable when Mother was teaching. I mean, she had those kids, she had a good crowd too. She
Yeah.
drew a good crowd. And, Daddy served as an usher. If he wasn't doing anything else, he was serving as an usher. And it wasn't like he ever lectured us about, oh, you've got to be at church, you've got to be at church. We're not going to put up with this if you're not going to church. Because it wasn't a question.
Right.
You just assumed that's what you were going to do. And it was good for me. I felt totally comfortable in that atmosphere, I remember we were sitting in church and as a family, and Mother had a pretty voice, soprano voice, and Daddy couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. And so if you were sitting next to him, you tried to sing the melody over his whatever he was singing. And I remember Parker was still little and misbehaving, and Daddy had enough of it and grabs him up. And Parker, I don't know if he was saying something on the way out of the church, but you could hear every word. And they get outside and, no, don't spank me, don't spank me. And of course the whole church heard it. Right outside the church door.
That's all they heard.
Don't spank me. Mother, she helped me learn to sew. I loved home economics. I didn't like the cooking so much because we cooked these weird dishes in split pea soup for cracked ice. Anyway, we sewed, and Mother had great skill with that, and she never seemed to holler or get upset showing me how to do that. And I loved it, and I got her lovely sewing machine in a cabinet with all the stuff, and it just amazes me to this day. She had patterns, and she when we were little, Gail and I had dresses alike, but we got to go to Amarillo and get Bobby Brooks stuff when we were getting bigger, We always felt like we were well clothed. We had stuff that was modern, I thought. At the time, it was modern.
One of my favorite stories is when you're walking down the street and JC starts singing, or
we're on what's the main street in Amarillo?
sorry, I don't know, Mama.
We can't have forgotten it already anyway. Polk.
Okay.
Polk Street. And
Sorry.
we were on Polk Street. I was with him, and he starts singing, "It ain't gonna rain no more." And of course, I was a teenager and absolutely mortified. So I start walking real fast. "Hey, Randall McCollough, why are you walking so fast?" And so everybody in the area knew who I was, and that I had a nutty dad that was singing off key. Oh! He took me to get my
Yeah.
formal
What?
to the Hollywood, which was one of several stores, and
Why didn't grandmother go?
there was some reason why she couldn't go, but he took me,
Yeah.
and I tried it on, and he said, "That looks good."
Is it the full white lace
Yes,
dress
yes.
that I have?
Yes.
Oh my god, okay.
He took me, and I got to get that. I mean, he just, that looks good. Let's get it. You know, and he did what he said. We go treats, going to Amarillo because it was a bigger city, of
Right.
course, and also the Silver Grill, which was a cafeteria, and he loved the cafeteria. He loved them, and we did too, and we'd get the same thing every time, you know. But he'd take us, and we always felt special about that.
Yeah. All right, my last question is
Yes.
what is the legacy that you hope the McCollough name leaves behind?
That's a hard one. The ability to make people feel comfortable.
Acceptance. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be able to just walk up and talk to somebody. I had a shy daughter. I had no idea what to do with a shy daughter. But boy, in my family, you better get
to be shy.
You don't get to be shy. You're just out there. I mean, if you're not, somebody is right behind you out there saying something about you. Yeah. Oh, they were good with people.
Yeah.
One last story.
Yeah.
Mother got it. She was at home and she got a call from the guy that worked at the telephone company, and he said, "Mrs. McCollough," he said, we're cleaning out the lines, and what you need to do for me, I don't want there to be a problem. I want you to take a tea towel and wrap the phone receiver in the tea towel, because he said there's going to be dust blowing in there. And so she took him at his word, and she did it, and she put it on. And of course JC could not stand it. He had to come home, and he comes in, and he's got a smirk on his face, and Mother said, "I knew it was she."
He praised her.
Oh my god.
I knew. She knew. He'd started that. He thought that was the funniest damn thing to see that receiver land.
I was thinking, well, yeah, I know. Because, you know, she talks about, and what she hasn't talked about yet, is the dust storm that she had to walk home in with her sister, Gail, and Parker.
Yes, just a minute.
Was Parker and Kay too?
In the dust storm, I don't remember that.
And you had to walk home with the neckerchief on your faces.
No, that was when a really bad 2 mile high dust storm rolled in.
Basically, we would call that a haboob.
Yeah.
Probably
yeah,
a haboob
yeah.
now. Yeah.
But the sky was red, and they let people out of school if your parents could pick you up, because visibility was absolutely nil.
Right.
And I never will forget that. That's just living up in Panhandle.
Right.
You know, some of the growing up. But
Yeah.
Okay, real quick, I have the one most important thing that your dad gave to you was the Royal Canadian Mounted Police exercise.
Oh, yeah.
Tell it. This is something that needs to be told.
Yeah, he has been an inspiration to me as far as exercising goes, all my adult life. And
Yep.
had the girls, he was walking, he'd been walking all this time.
Yeah.
And he gave me that Royal Canadian Air Force exercise book, and it started out with each chapter was a set of exercises, and you worked and did more reps, and then when you got the total number of reps, you went to the next chapter. And he got me started on that, and I knew it was a help to me. You know, you don't, and so he impressed upon me. He never said, "Well, this is what you got to do if you want to be in good shape." He never said that. He just, I probably said something about, "Oh, here I am have 2 babies and I can't get rid of the baby fat, and he maybe had suggested it, but then
Yeah.
he inspired me, and so to this day I do the exercise.
Yeah.
Every
and
day.
walking.
Every day. I would walk out at 5:30 in the morning, and she would be doing leg raises and crunches and everything else. I mean, that's
And then
So,
walking now, you know, and,
Yeah.
and of course it's good for you.
okay.
Maybe 62.
Well, since you're 78, can you start saying by how long you've known Jim and JC? How long you? When did you get married? When did you meet? Okay.
3, 2, 1, start. Somebody ask a question.
When did you meet your wife? What year did you meet your wife?
I met her in late 1964. 63, I think. Yeah.
And when was the first time you met her parents? And where was it?
About 6 months later on a street at approximately 8th and Colorado by the Southwestern Bell telephone site.
So they just came down for a visit
And
to,
I busted in.
and you busted in. Was it a big weekend that you?
No, we went to eat Mexican food.
Where did you eat Mexican food?
Somewhere El Mat's down around 2nd and the frontage road, somewhere down there.
Tell us your first impression of JC.
Hey, he's a businessman, no rounder. I could see he wasn't a rounder. He wasn't the type of men that I knew at the time, the grown men. The men I knew were
More
carpenters,
blue collar, more
blue
yeah.
collar, honky tonkers, went dancing, and I could see that he wasn't one of those types. But he was a good man.
Did you feel welcomed, or did you feel that they accepted you pretty quickly that first time, or before the weekend was over with, that they thought, okay, this is a girl or this is a man that our girl can stay with?
I don't think they thought about that. We were just down there having fun.
And so y'all been dating 6 months. So then, how much later did you go to Panhandle to ask?
Well, Randa moved back to Panhandle. There was a medical issue, and she moved back to Panhandle. But before that, we had been. I think our first formal date was DPS Christmas dance at Stephen F. Austin Hotel. All the women had wigs on top of their head. The men had on suits and ties with a big old bottle of whiskey sitting at the table, man, listening to, it was Nash Hernandez Orchestra.
Wow. And that was the DPS party. So you had everybody.
Yeah, then after that, well, about 7 or 8 years later, they started talking. I had too much liability, and those fun times went by the wayside. But anyway, that was our first formal date. Before that, we did go to Frontier Drive-In on Barton Springs Road and get a bottle of beer and eat a fish sandwich for about 75 cents.
I want to know what you thought of Norma Jim the first time you met her.
About the same, business-like. I mean, they weren't anything like my parents. Their lifestyle.
Is there
you know. They own.
bad or good?
Oh, I just liked all people. You know, I didn't.
Did they make you nervous?
No, they didn't make me nervous. For some reason, I just. It was cool. It was cool. One time, Pat DeMent and I went up for pheasant hunting. after we'd moved to after we moved back to Austin, I took Pat up and he met Jim and I and Pat DeMint sat together, the three of us, and Jim and Pat DeMint had this conversation that Pat DeMint, he's a Democrat, you know, moderate. Now he's a businessman and he's really real moderate now. But anyway, at the time, he and Jim started talking, and man, Jim was a pretty liberal. She had some liberal thoughts. And I was wanting to just get out of there and get down to Fat Tony's, and D-Man kept talking and having a big old time. But anyway, it was pretty neat. It was pretty enlightening, but that was, hell, we'd been married all the years.
So you moved from Austin, your hometown, because your wife got tired of the traffic or whatever, and you moved to Panhandle and went to work for your father-in-law. What were your expectations and how did it exceed them? What was your feeling?
I was just doing it to
make your wife happy.
Make Randa not happy, but I mean she wanted to be around her folks. My folks have been passed away for what, 20 years, 25 years.
Can you please tell the story of when you asked JC to marry Mom?
Yep.
Well, I went up. Randa had moved back to Panhandle, and Randa and I, we were writing letters. Actually, there was no cell phones, and I wasn't calling. We write letters, and so I wrote her a letter, and I said, I'd like to come up to Panhandle. I even wrote down every town I was going to go through. Lamb Passes, Brownwood, Abilene, Hamlin, Anson. And she said, that sounds good. And so I got up there and we went to, that was the year we went to Colorado camping together. Me and Parker slept in the same tent. We had newspapers on our cots, and me and Parker slept in a tent together. And I don't think that was the time that, I think I came on back. And then I went back up there Thanksgiving. And it was cold. And old JC took me over. We went to Amarillo to watch 2 black football teams play. This was 1964?
Yeah.
We went over there, man, it was cold. It was Thanksgiving. So we got back home and turned out to be a pretty nice day. It was Sunday and I had to come back that day. And Brandon and I were sitting out on the porch. And man, I didn't want to go. I started crying. Brandon's crying. She said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I guess we can get married. And Randa said, well, you got to talk to Daddy. So I said, okay. So Randa, she walked around out the front yard, and I went in, and there was the Slimps there, some of the kin folks of JC's, and I said, Mr. McCollough, can I talk to you? And we went back to the kitchen, and I said, Mr. McCollough, I'd like to marry Randa, and I'm seeking your permission. And he said, well, can you afford her? And I said, yes, sir, I'm making $340 a month working on fingerprint line, and I'm going to get a $50-something raise this next month, and I think we can do it. Okay, you have her. And we walked out. We took off. We got married. We were making $750 a month together, and rented a garage apartment at 4308 9th Avenue G for $50 a month. Had a big old time, lived there for 2 years.
And then the floor.
At one time, one time Miss Nair came up to me, she said, Doug, I need to talk to you. I said, yes, ma'am, what is it? She said, well, the tax has been going up. She said, I might have to raise that rent. I said, how much? She said, well, I gotta go up $5 a month. I said, okay, you got it. So we started paying $55, and then one day I came home and heard water run in the garage, and I thought Miss Naird, being the old German lady, she's in there washing down the floor, and I raised the door up, and it looks like it's raining in there. Pipe busted in the bathroom that morning after we left for work. We only had one car, and it looked like it was raining in there. That whole apartment floor was covered in water.